More than a century after a woman played a key role in the birth of Kaziranga Tiger Reserve and Wildlife Sanctuary, we now have a women field director of Kaziranga, and it seems like life has come full circle. We are very, very delighted to have with us today Dr. Sonali Ghosh, and thank you and welcome to the Assam Tribune Dialogue.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Dr. Sonali, from starting your career in Kaziranga in 2002 as a young IFS officer to now becoming the field director, I'm sure life has changed a lot for you. What have been some of your key learnings on this journey? Would you want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, thank you so much. And first of all, I am really grateful to you and the Assam Tribune Dialogue to, having invited us, and the whole day we have had some wonderful discussions, and it's really, every time, we learn a lot. So the same manner, when I joined Kaziranga way back in 2002, I think I was 20 years younger, 20 kilos lighter. So, the world view is very different. And now, of course, it has been a good learning because I started, and then, I went to different places in Assam. I was in Zoo, I was in Kokrajhar, I was in Manas. And then, of course, I, got the national exposure as well in how we do policy. So all that we have learned, I think I've been able to now, take that for my role as a field director.
Yeah, and you're someone who actually also got into academics to do a PhD. And so how was that experience of taking a break? And
yeah, so I guess, I think we should, in life, we should never stop learning. So, having said that, when I joined the service and after that, so I thought that it is good that if I understand more about the subject, because, forest management and forest governance, these are very evolving. We have had 100 years of our park management. If you see, it used to be earlier a game sanctuary. Now, game sanctuary means where you hunt for sport, and then after that it became a wildlife sanctuary, it became a national park,
Right.
and now it's also a World Heritage, a tiger reserve. So the way how our conservation has evolved is there's a lot to learn. So I think it was important for me that I wanted to keep learning,
Yeah.
and it was, of course, a great experience.
And I also believe even now, whenever you find time, you're always researching on Kaziranga and reading up.
Yeah, no, I would love to. I would, because there's so many fascinating things, and every time I, come across, and then we learn new things about Kaziranga. And the fact that Kaziranga is not just a national park, it's spread across 1,300 square kilometers. It's in five of the districts. So every place, every range, I would say, has its own unique character.
It leads me to the second question. Why do you think, in terms of numbers and, of course, why the Kaziranga model of conservation has worked so well?
Yes, I think that's something which, through your platform or through, I'm so happy and proud to be part of that Kaziranga model of conservation, because the more I read or the more I experience it, I'm convinced that this is one of the ways in which we can protect. So what is it? It's basically where we invest in the foot soldiers. So you probably know Mr. Mahi Chandra Miri, right?
Yes.
So Mahi Miri was one of the first Assamese, he was a ACF, the Assistant Conservator of Forest in British Forest Imperial Service. And he used to, and even that time also we used to have rhino poaching. So what he did, he used to sit on top of a machan, a tongi or a watchtower, and he would look through the landscape, and he would then, build his strategy to protect. So that slowly became into our camps. So as of now, in the entire 1,300 square kilometers, we have almost 250 camps, anti-poaching camps. And each of these camps are manned 24/7, 12 months in a year, year after year, by people. So these people, they live there and they protect the area in their, they protect, they patrol, and they are able to protect the rhinos and the large animals which are which are susceptible to poaching or hunting.
Right.
So that is the Kaziranga model, where we believe in people power and we put them in that
At the center
yes,
of it.
yes.
So absolutely. I would also want to know about the wonderful women who patrol some of these areas, and women forest guards, and sometimes on boats and in rough terrain. And so what are the challenges that they face? Because, you are, for us, you are their voice. And today I'd want to know that.
Yeah, so in fact, it was such a path-breaking thing in Assam that after almost a gap of 30 odd years, and led by the vision of Honorable Chief Minister, last year we had over 2,500 new recruits in the department. And these were the forest frontline. The frontline means these are forest guards, foresters. And in them we had over 300 women. So they competed and they had the same, level of training and exercise. So they're pretty good in terms of their physical fitness, in terms of their, their alertness of how they can manage. So these are the new young women that we have now got. Honorable Prime Minister gave them the name of Van Durga. When he interacted with them on 9th of March. And they are, the best part is they are all from smaller towns, they have, many of them are from Majuli, so they know boating, they know how to row a boat. So that has been an advantage. But yes, there are challenges, and these challenges are the way we have lived so far. So for example, our camps, they do not have a closed bathing area. We never thought that there will be a time when women will come and you need to have. So then, of course, our camps are, very basic. We may not have the kind of supports, and forget about families for sure. So young women, they are right now unmarried. They do not have, many of them don't have children. So it is okay, but 10 years down the line there would be a requirement, so we will need to think about that. And yes, so those challenges are equal for both men and women, but I think a little more for women to work
like
there.
I think you mean childcare facilities.
Yes.
Okay. And Sonali, I also have to ask you one tricky question, which keeps coming up in conversations, and that is about the growing might of the hospitality industry, and specifically the private hospitality industry, which is sort of blocks some of the corridors. So how difficult is it for you as a field director to negotiate this?
Yes. So, we have, I agree. I mean, there is an increase in the number of resorts for sure. We have resorts, we have homestays. So, what we call as the mushrooming has happened. So it is, over the years, people see a visible change in Kaziranga. Having said that, it's perhaps a misnomer to say that our corridors are where one cannot. So the law and the central law and the state laws are pretty strict about it. What it is that we have 9 designated corridors in Kaziranga, and these corridors are also part of what we call as the eco-sensitive zone. So there isn't any activity which is not compliant with what our guidelines are can be undertaken. So for example, all the stone quarries, all the mining which used to happen earlier have been closed. So they are shut down in the Kaziranga landscape. We cannot have a major industry, in the major landscape. Now, having said that, so let's say if there is a big hospitality sector being planned, they will have to do the compliances as per the environment regulations. So for example, they would need to have a very strong solid liquid waste management system in place, or for that matter, the garbage disposal, and maybe use of solar, and so on. So those compliances are pretty strict, and it is expected that these will be followed.
Right. I think that's one
Yes.
key area of concern, and the
Yes.
Honorable Supreme Court has also
Yes.
intervened
Yes.
in terms of mining, and
Yeah.
I hope that these are followed.
Yes.
There also have been allegations about land rights. I don't know if you're the right person to speak on this, but yeah, the
Yeah.
activists have spoken about the land rights of indigenous people living on the fringes,
Yes.
who have been living there for centuries now, perhaps, and so. And overnight, there's been a shift in some areas. How do you see this spanning out in the years to come?
Yes. See, I mean, Kaziranga is 1300 square kilometers. So, and they are everywhere we have indigenous communities. We have, and that is the best thing about Assam. My learning of Assam vis-a-vis the rest of the country is we live with wildlife in our backyard. I mean, even in Guwahati, we hear of elephants, we hear of leopards. So it is the beauty, that is the essence of Assam, that we have wild animals, we have indigenous communities, we have it everywhere. So to say that it is a particular land right, or for that matter, that has been infringed, is again, I would say, is incorrect, because there are laws, there are compliances that say that you cannot do without free and prior informed consent. So I am assuming that these are things which are done. It's just that people, or for that matter, when we look at it from a project point of view, we 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 tend to ignore that. Okay, oh, this must have been taken, but we are not aware. So ideally, I think it's possibly a case of lack of awareness about what all procedural has been taken, because it is a World Heritage Site.
Yeah.
So it's not possible, or it's not going to be easy to completely infringe upon anybody's rights as such.
Right.
Yes.
I'll take your word on that for
Yes.
now.
Yes.
And I'm going to come to a very fairly simple question, but something that interests our readers as well as our viewers.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the new eco-friendly initiatives that are coming up in Kaziranga under your guidance, like cycling around the park, or even boat tourism along the north bank near Tejpur to sight the Asiatic river dolphin. So these are exciting things that are happening in Kaziranga. How do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, and thank you for asking this, because this is something, like I said, it's Kaziranga is not just Kohra and Baguri. I learn every day that it is almost 1300 square kilometer. Every range has its own beauty. So we want to encourage people to take these up. So we have started what we call as of course, the cycling trek. I hope that it gets popular. It has become. Then we have this boat safari, which takes the people from the Tezpur Kolya Bhamra Bridge up to the Jiaparali Conference, and it is really spectacular. One must, and you should come and see it,
Definitely.
because it's
Yeah.
real. It's just the might of the river and the dolphins. It becomes very interesting.
At its best.
Yeah. And we are also thinking, we are exploring if we could do things like tea tasting, tea tourism, trekkings, and even night sky watching. So we are still exploring, because we have to have the ideal, the places and where we can do. We are just in the end of this month, we are planning the butterfly meet. So we want to get people to come and look at not just our rhinos and tigers, but also the
other
butterflies
species.
and
Yeah,
other
yeah.
species.
It's a lovely idea, I
Yeah,
think, a butterfly meet, and
yes,
who didn't
yes,
want to go?
yes, yes, yes.
So, and Dr. Sonali, I also want to ask you, since I know that Kaziranga has become fairly popular in recent years, so tourists like me or our viewers and readers, what are some of the things that we should keep in mind when we visit these ecologically sensitive zones?
Very good. Thank you for asking that question. I think it's very important that our visitors, our tourists, are aware as to what they are going to. I mean, one is when you just go to appreciate beauty of nature, but if there is a conservation angle to it, I think it just becomes manifold, important and good for us. So first and foremost, I think the reducing our plastic requirement. So please carry your own bottle. Please don't encourage buying a bottle from the local this thing. Please do not do loud music or flashy colors or anything which can disturb the wild animals, because it's eventually their home,
It's
and we
eventually
are
there.
going into their home and looking at them. So a responsible tourist will mean that we don't have any sort of a casualty or any sort of a mishap, and also the animals are not stressed.
Yeah, so we need to remember that it's their home and we are just visitors for a very short while.
Yes.
And another question that I want to ask you is, there are many, many young women and men both who look up to you, and they aspire to be forest officers. So what do you think is the one quality or skill that they should work on?
Well, I think yes. I'll be happy if people, because it's a nice profession. We say that as foresters we go to picnic places on duty. That's how we say. We can always. I don't need a ticket and I can just go into Kaziranga anytime I want. So that's the advantage. Now, how should they aspire? I think they would need to be more sensitive to the environment of forest. So at when they are studying, I think they should just love to go outdoors. They should do some birding. They should just enhance their skills of how one should read a forest. So the more we know, the more we understand, the more we identify our birds and our plants and our trees, our work will be enjoyable.
That's insightful. So the more we read a forest, the more we can aspire to be an officer like Dr. Sonali Ghosh. Thank you so much. And one last question that we want to leave you with is, how has been your experience with the Assam Tribune Dialogue?
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. I think since morning we have been hearing, and for me also it has been inspiring to meet so many wonderful people. I was pleasantly surprised to meet Lavlina, because she is also from Golaghat, not very far from Kaziranga. So the dialogue has done wonderfully in terms of bringing the very relevant topics, and to get the civil society engagement on it. And but that set aside, I think the background team, has worked beautifully, and I think I have become a big fan of the hospitality that you all have offered.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sonali. You have been very kind, and we wish that you have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Do not forget to like, share and subscribe to the Assam Tribune.